Throughout history, the Aboriginal, Métis, and First Nations people in Canada have faced several assimilating, oppressive, and unjust issues. There has been a growing problem concerning the unjust law system for these Indigenous groups and their correlation with incarceration rates. The First Nations people have been targets for discrimination, physical, and emotional abuse by law enforcers themselves. A certain method of police abuse is called the Starlight Tours, where officers pick up drunken First Nations and Aboriginals and drive them out of their city several miles, abandoning them to find their way home. In fact, there are several instances where people have died from hypothermia and exposure. Experts believe that the cause of the high inmate rate is due to discrimination, poverty, and an unjust system which does not consider or accommodate their culture and spiritual beliefs. Aboriginals represent 4.3% of the total Canadian population, yet they embody 23% of all inmates in federal jails. This statistic has grown by 43% in the past 5 years alone. A statistic from 1991 showed that 3.23% of Aboriginals on average were sentenced to jail, while only 0.4% of non-Aboriginals were incarcerated. This means that for every non-Aboriginal person in prison, there are 8 Aboriginals or First Nations. The highest provincial rate was in Alberta, as they represented nearly 7% of the Indigenous group, while Ontario had one of the lowest provincial rates of 1.15%. Aboriginals and First Nations are 10 times more likely to go to jail than any other ethnic group in Canada, including Caucasians. It is a proven statistic that an Aboriginal man is more likely to go to prison than to graduate from high school. It is clear that the First Nations have struggled with the Canadian justice system, an issue which has unfortunately only increased through history.